There's a flurry of activity surrounding the Darwin airport. Jetstar says the northern city will act as its new hub for the airline's New Asian strategy. With financial help from the Northern Territory government, Jetstar says it will seek to build the infrastructure necessary for the carrier to base up to 7 aircraft in Darwin over the next 5 years. The news comes a day after Tiger Airways announced that it was pulling the plug on its Darwin's operations due to high costs associated to landing there. And earlier, Carson Scott sat down with Transport Minister Anthony Albanese and began by asking for his response to Tiger's cuts.
Well, of course, airlines will make commercial decisions based upon their own particular perceived interest, and it's not up to the government to interfere in that. What we do know is that Australia has perhaps the most competitive domestic airline industry in the world, and we see benefits to consumers of that. We also see in these figures that we're releasing today that 2007 saw a record growth of some 6.6%. We know also from the figures that the month-to-month analysis, that is if you compare each of the first 6 months of this year with the corresponding month of 2007, there's been a growth in passenger numbers in each and every one of those years.
Isn't that decision by Tiger, though, just going to take money out of our economy?
Oh, look, I'm not saying it's a good decision. The government would like to see maximum competition on each and every route. However, those decisions are commercial ones and they're up to each individual airline. We know that in recent years, of course, we've had a Virgin also flying to Darwin. We've got SkyWest operating to Darwin from the Kimberley region, and we have had substantial growth. If you look at the figures in the aviation industry as a whole, I mean, last year we saw some 53 billion kilometres travelled, which is the equivalent of some 180 trips to the sun. So we're seeing a substantial increase in the industry. The government has embarked on a process of having an aviation green paper, white paper process leading to a national aviation strategy.
And what will that strategy inherently be looking to change?
Well, what it'll be looking to change essentially is the ad hoc way in which policy making was made in the past. What we need is a strategy not just for a week or a month or a year. We need a longer term strategy when it comes to aviation, given the important role that aviation plays in the economy of the nation.
End of the day, though, doesn't this just come down to a fundamental of high oil prices, airlines with no other option but to slash and burn those routes?
We know that aviation industry suffered, for example, of skill shortages are one of the reasons why. There's been a shutting of some of the regional routes in New South Wales and Victoria. Now, that is a product of bad planning in terms of skills development for the industry. We know there's a shortage of not just pilots but air traffic controllers, licensed engineers. We need to address that, and we need to also make sure that we have a long-term strategy so that these issues don't come as any surprise across the industry, not just skills but planning issues, the relationship between airports and local communities, and indeed the need for competition across the sector.
Isn't the reality, though, that this all boils down to dollars and cents, cold hard cash? People can get up to 30% more by going offshore.
Well, look, that's one of the issues that the green paper and white paper process will consider.
But those skilled workers, including the air traffic controllers, aren't actually going to be trained and starting the job for several years. So what's going to happen in the meantime to the skies that remain unmanned? The
shortages aren't as a result of that. Yes, there have been instances of people leaving the Australian industry for pastures overseas, But it's also the case that we simply haven't trained enough people. We haven't trained enough air traffic controllers. We haven't had the areas involved in the aviation industry on the national skills shortage list until recently. And it's simply the case that for a long period of time, the government had a view that the sector would just look after itself and the hands were off the wheel. And what the government's determined to do in consultation with the industry is to make sure that we have a much greater sense of what is required in the years to come, and that we put in place the policies that will ensure that these issues don't arise in the future.
How much specifically are you pushing for within the budget to solve this crisis?
Well, in terms of budgetary processes, they take place in the Expenditure Review Committee, not on the Sky Business Channel.
Well, how much
so we'll be certainly doing what is required. I'm not going to preempt the white paper process. That's why we're having this white paper that will set out a national aviation strategy. Might I say, for the first time, it's quite extraordinary that we've never had a national aviation strategy before.